This is Dan. That is Godokin. That one was red. That one was green. When Dan throws Godokin, or just Fireball if you don't care that much about the real name, it has a completely random chance of being either red or green. The red one launches up and does big damage, the green one keeps him on the ground. It wasn't always like this though. There used to only be the green Fireball. When Dan was first brought into Street Fighter V in the February of 2021, he had a pretty long combo that uses Fireball over and over again. How long? Forever, actually.
No! He's gonna get infinite! 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 Oh, infinite!
He does have the meter to get it going. Can he
Infinite!
do it? Is this going to be the first time we see this on the Capcom Pro Tour? RB is doing it. This is history in the making. This is exactly why we talk about Dan.
Please don't drop.
That we do.
It looks like it's gonna drop.
If you didn't mess this fairly easy sequence of inputs up, your victim would either die to infinite damage, or be stuck taking a whole lot of damage until the round clock hit 0. And the Dan player would most likely take the round due to having a life lead. This was, for obvious reasons, a problem, so the devs came up with the funniest solution they could manage. The red Fireball. Now, if you tried to do this combo, it would technically work the same, but it wouldn't take long until the red Fireball appeared, launched the opponent, and forced the combo to end early. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. Due to some changes in the penultimate balance patch for Street Fighter V, the old loop doesn't actually work anymore. Although it does work specifically in Dan's combo trials, which roll back to a version of the game that was after the red Fireball, but before those frame data changes. All that aside, this red Fireball business begs the question. Just how likely is it that you throw the special red Fireball whenever you do the move? A quick Google search won't show you a definitive answer for this, but pretty much all sources say that it hovers around 15%. That's the number that was thrown around when the patch first came out, and that's the number on the Super Combo Wiki, the most ubiquitous resource for Street Fighter games. And, looking at all the patches the game got since then, there's no mention in any of the patch notes of them increasing or decreasing the odds of getting this red Fireball. So, 15%, right? Well... just from the footage in the background here, you might get the sense that something feels off. It seems like way more than 15% of these fireballs are red, right? Of course, it's theoretically possible for any number of red fireballs to occur in a limited testing environment if the chance is random at all. And we definitely shouldn't make definitive statements about the nature of the game just based on vibes. So, to get a bit more of an informed look at the situation, I threw 1,000 fireballs. Or, more accurately, I made the training dummy throw 1,000 fireballs and recorded how many of them were red. Manually. It was really boring. 1,000 fireballs, a few pauses in between for breaks, and 30 minutes of my limited time on Earth later, I got a total of 270 red fireballs out of 1,000. But what does that number mean exactly? Again, it's not impossible to get numbers like this if the real odds of getting a red fireball are 15%. But is it likely enough to be something we think would ever actually happen? Going into some more weird data math stuff, we can answer those questions by assuming that the odds of throwing a red fireball actually are 15%, and then seeing what properties we would expect our test to have in that situation. Luckily, this is pretty easy, since that fireball test falls perfectly into the binomial distribution. When we do a thing, it has a 15% chance of succeeding, we do that thing 1,000 times. The binomial distribution tells us what sort of numbers we should expect to see with respect to how many successes we get, i.e. how many red fireballs we throw. The odds of throwing any one number of red fireballs out of 1,000 is pretty low no matter what the actual chance of throwing a red fireball is. So a better question to ask is what the odds are of getting 270 or more fireballs, a result as extreme or more extreme than what we got. That in turn is basically just the same as asking what are the odds of getting 730 or less green fireballs if the odds of getting a green fireball are 85%. And if you use some Python libraries to answer that question, it will run for way longer than it reasonably should and then spit out this. It's not very likely is what I'm saying. Just as another way to visualize this, if you tell a computer to simulate throwing 1,000 red fireballs 10,000 times, under the assumption that a red fireball has a 15% chance of being thrown, here's what the resulting proportions of results would look like. And here's the result that we actually got. So, from our test result of 27%, what can we say about the actual probability of throwing a red fireball? We can't just say, oh, 27% of our fireballs were red, it has a 27% chance of happening. No. Nuh-uh. That's not how this works. We can't discount the possibility that our 1,000 fireballs were a statistical anomaly on the scale of like 1 in 100, or 1 in 1,000, or even 1 in 5,000, and not that. What we can do is use a result of 27% out of 1,000 trials, and from that construct a confidence interval, a range of numbers that we can be pretty sure that the actual probability is in. Luckily, since the value we're looking at is just a proportion in a set of binomial trials, we can get this range just by plugging some numbers into a formula instead of needing to make the computer do any more esoteric science stuff. Take the data from our sample, the size, the standard deviation, and our actual proportion of fireballs, and we'll get a 95% confidence interval of around 0.2425 to 0.2975. I am 95% confident that the actual chance of throwing a red fireball is somewhere between 24.25% and 29.75%. Or maybe there's some other stuff happening here. Maybe the training mode record and replay messes with the RNG somehow. Or maybe my game is bugged in some way. Or maybe it's actually a little bit farther out than this interval, and our 95% confidence was just wrong. I can't say for certain that the actual chance really is in this sort of mid-high 20s% range. But if this is gonna be the value that we're gonna have on our wikis, then I think this is as good as a reason as any to double check.